Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming in a new Elden Ring build video. Today we are talking what is basically a nightmare to deal with, the absolute spam of Death Rancor and Rancor type abilities, as well as the improvements to Flails and this, well, delightful flail with 3 heads on the end of it. And its very own Rancor Call, which was buffed in a previous patch and is now a bit more relevant. As you can see, this creates a kind of ridiculous scenario in PvP where people are just so unbelievably pressured by the hilarious amount of projectiles that all move at different paces, track really well, and last ages. The DPS capabilities of, say, the ancient Rancor, when charged fully, can be pretty devastating and even stagger bosses. Whereas the Ash of War spam, surprisingly solid. This is more of a fun build though, a very unique playstyle and build, rather than say a meta or crazy option, but something very fun to try if you like the concept. So with that said, let's begin with PvP. The build in PvP then. It's quite an interesting one because of course it is all about your spells and the incredible harass and real pressure that it creates. Whether you're using Death Rancor or the ancient version, both is going to be really annoying to deal with because they do track pretty damn well. Ideally we're mixing between them though, because the basic version will come out quicker while the ancient will of course have more and hit harder. The best seems to be a combination of the two to create an incredible pressure and irritating thing for someone to deal with. Ideally you'll be standing in, say, Terra Magica to increase the damage, basically turning yourself into a death skull turret. While the tracking is good, they do have a limited range. They can't catch someone who's sprinting. So if someone reacts correctly and runs away from them or presses you quickly, then using the flail to mix up the pressure is always going to be a good idea. Sending out either or Rancor and then running them down with the flail while they worry about the spells. A pick your poison situation where either one is good for you. Of course, we can also mix in the Ash of War from the flail. This Ash of War deals pretty respectable damage and generates quite a lot of these death skulls of different sizes as well, but they move much slower. In PvP, that's actually a good thing because it creates another thing for them to worry about. Say they've got a fast Rancor after them, a slow Rancor after them, and an even slower Ash, while you're now running at them with the flail, it's a lot for them to worry about, and any one of them is going to be a problem. If you hit them with the flail and they stagger, well then all those spells are going to hit them and crunch the health. Finally, we're also using Tib of Summons because we are boosting that with our Death Staff, so why not? And as hard as these things can be to hit, if you've conditioned them quickly to deal with all these missiles, well suddenly the Tib of Summons might actually hit them while they're standing there or running towards you and trading on the spot. I've actually hit them a couple times and the damage is really good if you can ever hit them, which is very hard. But again, it's very important that you do have the Death Staff in your hands when casting spells because that 10% bonus to these spell types is pretty big. Now when it comes to the flail and the family heads in particular, we're using this as a tool to interrupt, harass or pressure them in a way they don't expect. It's not the main source of our damage, the spells are. However, it's undeniable that the buffs to 1.09 for the flail is very nice. The speed, the range in particular is great for catching people in trade or when they're running and just not expecting it. We kind of use the weapon to finish people off or stagger them so they can be hit by the spells, as I've said. This playstyle will have you casting a lot and therefore using a lot of your FP, so you want to get these spells going and then run them down if they are trying to avoid it. Best played from sort of a medium range where you can back up if you need to or run into them if they are playing well with the missiles. Also, I do have the Omen Bairn tool, which is just using some FP to send some more wraiths for some more mixed, missile variety if you're struggling for that. Though the damage isn't amazing, it's pretty funny. Overall though, this is a really high pressure ranged playstyle and build where you're more of a spellcaster than anything, but the flail is catching people, and it really goes to show that these buffs that have happened to flails have some relevance, where I can actually land hits, especially at surprising range, giving me that little bit of fighting power I might need when someone really gets on me. But I can say for sure, this build is definitely scary to deal with if you don't react correctly and quickly. On the other hand though, we do of course have PvE where things are a bit simpler for your max DPS options. Basically, we're going to buff up hard with our incantations and of course our spells, and then focus on ancient Rancor, fully charging it as much as possible to send in these big heavy hitting skulls. What you can do is full charge to start with, maybe a full charge times 2 and then a quick single tap to get 3 bursts of waves going at the target. In this case, the burst will be incredible, especially if you can get space to keep casting them. Fully charged sets of this from a good distance are going to be really good, and of course you get the opportunity in many boss fights as well as the open world to do that. Not only that, somehow these missiles can stagger enemies, even bosses, so if you can get a few charged up, you can even stagger them, getting off more casts and getting off more great DPS. Compared to that, say the other spells aren't nearly as strong. Take Tiba's summons, they're just never really gonna work. If a boss has any mobility of any kind, you just can't land them. It takes too long to set them up. By the time they finally swing, even a slight movement from the boss will cause it to miss or deal very little damage. Thing is, if you can hit all three, it will actually hit pretty hard, but I just don't ever see that happening. So I'm still waiting on this spell to get buffed. Back to something that does actually work though, the Weapon Ash of War, the familiar Rancor. It flies much slower than the other spells, which while useful in PvP, in PvE isn't as good. But the damage is pretty impressive due to the many projectiles and the size of them. If you can get off a couple of those casts, especially with the Ash being able to stagger bosses, it can actually hit pretty hard and is not too bad at all. Using the weapon to directly fight though is more of a last option situation, used to maybe finish off low enemies or those with low poise, but mainly you're using the Ash or the spells for your damage in PvE. But now it's time to explain the build. Starting with the weapon, of course, the family heads are Flail of choice, which, as you can see, actually has pretty good dex scaling if you were to go that way. Also on our right hand to swap with is the Prince of Death staff. There's no reason to actually upgrade this. The simple reason to have it is because of the passive effect that boosts death sorcery. This is why it's really important that before you actually cast your spells, like Ancient Death Rancor, Rancor Call, or Tibia's summons, you actually have it equipped in your right hand. Then when you actually cast those spells, it'll be greatly increased in its damage due to the offhand as well, with the great scaling of Carrion Regal Scepter. Lastly, we need a seal for a couple of the buffs that we use, and this Golden Order seal weighs nothing, so is very nice for our endurance. We are wearing the full Spellblade set, which per piece gives extra 2% magic damage to say our weapon damage or magic damage in general, although there is diminishing returns, so when I'm in PvP, as you'll see in that footage, I will change my armor to get myself some poise for PvP, and also a talisman to allow for that. Whatever content you're doing, I would recommend the Shadow of Alexander to improve the Ash of War damage. Graven Mass Talisman is a vital important one to greatly raise the potency of our sorceries. Now, because Ancient Rancor is our main source of damage, the Godfrey icon will enhance the power of it as a charged spell. And then we have our last slot. Now, depending on whether it's PvP, I'll use the Great Jar's Arsenal to wear some heavier armor to get some poise up, or as a filler slot we could run, say, Erdtree's Favor or Dragoncrest Great Shield to reduce the damage we take, but that slot's more up to you in PvE. For our Flask of Wondrous Physic, we of course have the Magic Shrouding Crack tier to boost magic damage, and the Cerulean Hidden tier to basically make it about 8 seconds of no mana cost while we're casting our spells desperately. We also do have the Omen Bairn as the sort of meme extra range harass in whichever content you're doing, but the damage is honestly not that good. We have Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength, of course, for the self buffs and damage increasing options. Terra Magica for its massive magic increasing damage buff. Then we just have Ancient Death Rancor, Rancor Call, and Tibia's summons for when we need them. Finally, the stats. 60 Vigor is always the way to go if you are considering PvP, but you could lower it for PvE, maybe get some more mind, but we have 20 mind in this case. I don't need any endurance to run either set that I've talked about. We're at 60 intelligence to actually be able to use the staff for spell casting and the S scaling, 25 faith for the incantations, and also important for the spells because they do require some faith, and then everything else just gets dumped into dexterity for the nice dexterity scaling on the weapon. I managed to reach 32, but like I said, you could lower your vigor and go higher. But there you have it, the build done and explained and shown. What do you think of that absolute madness? The ridiculous pressure that you can create with all of those skulls just flying at different paces, different sizes, different tracking types. I just feel terrible for someone that doesn't really know what to do in that situation. It's also great to have a reason to use a flail in a build that has thematic relevance, while the flail actually does something finally. If you guys have enjoyed this build video for something a bit different, then do drop a like. But for now, I've been Hollow, you've been you, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.